Hi everyone, welcome back to another edition of Hanging with Hannah at BU. This week I'm joined by Dr. LaRocco. He's a professor at Bellarmine in the comm department. But before he became a professor, he was a media producer in Hollywood, Chicago, and England. So can you tell me a little bit about your work before you got to Bellarmine?
Sure. So I've done a fair amount of video work. I started when I was an undergrad. I was really involved in the student film production group where I went to University of Chicago, and I did a lot of teaching of video there. I did a lot of sort of independent projects. Just kind of like went wild with video, and then I realized I didn't want to go into it professionally for a number of reasons, which I can certainly talk about if you want. But I like teaching video, so I've been teaching video to high school students and college students for the past like 15-ish years. Mm-hmm. So I would still do work, but usually it was just sort of like on my own time, and like because it didn't have to pay the bills, like teaching paid the bills. Mm-hmm. The projects that I would work on were usually like more fun and interesting, and like things that I wanted to work on, as opposed to like having to work on a dog food commercial or something. Like I could pick and choose my projects.
So while you were doing like your video work on the side, was that kind of like your creative outlet, and did you ever return to it as more of a job and less of teaching?
I would do some of like my own work, which was sort of my creative outlet, and then what I would write and direct, and it was sort of like fun for me to do, and it was fully creative. But there were also some times where like, I knew a lot of people that were working on video, and they'd be like, hey, can you come shoot something for me? It's paid. And I'm like, all right, cool. And you just go out and like make like a chunk of cash for the day. It's just like, hey, this is cool. This is spending money.
It's more of like kind of like a side hustle.
Yeah, it was definitely a side hustle.
Yeah.
Like
awesome. So what are some of the works that you did for your video editing? Are any of them like notable that we would know about?
Definitely the most sort of well-known thing I've done is some friends and I, we shot the viral video for Jones Barbecue and Foot Massage.
Jones Barbecue and Foot Massage! Jones Barbecue and Foot Massage!
That was like our biggest thing that we've ever done. And it, we didn't expect it to be that, as popular as it was, but it was. And it was so like that's probably the biggest thing that I've worked on, which is funny because it was like we shot it in like half a day with like a cheap camera on the south side of Chicago, and it was like, this is a small thing. It wasn't paid at all. Nobody got like money from it, at least not from up front. It wasn't a paid production. It was just like a bunch of friends making something funny.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, you never got paid for that, even though how viral it went, you never got paid
Well,
at all?
Okay. Well, I didn't produce it. So basically, where that video came from, there was these two friends of mine, Pedro and Ramiro Castro. I went to college with Ramiro. We collaborated on a lot of projects together. They were in this sort of sketch comedy group, and they didn't have anyone that knew how to do video in their group. And I like video and like comedy, so we kind of got together, and I would shoot all their projects. So we kind of had a thing going on. They were like, well, we had this idea for a project, and the first one we made was called Jones Big Ass Truck Rental and Storage. So we made like a commercial first.
Why leave anything on your front lawn, under your porch, on the side of the highway where you can store all that stuff my way? Down here at Jones Big Ass Truck Rental and Car Storage.
And the goal was like, this was like in the early days of YouTube, like before YouTube even really kind of like kicked off. And we were like, let's make a fake commercial and then put it on like local TV. Like that would be fun. And see if people would think it's like a real business. So it was sort of like I don't know, thought it was gonna be like a prank or something, but like it was gonna. I'm like, yeah, we'll pay for some like airtime at like 3 in the morning or something on like local TV and see if we can get it aired. That would be really funny. So we shot it, and it was like they were looking into the logistics of it, and they're like, I don't know, like it seems like it's gonna be a lot of money, and like is it worth it? But then they're like, oh, there's this thing called YouTube that we can put the commercial on. So yeah, it was like we shot it all in a morning. It was like me, the Castro brothers and some of their group, and then the guy that plays Toby Jones, Robert Hines. He's a Chicago comedian that we're friends with, and he's a stand-up. He's really, really talented. We just all went out there and collaborated and shot it, and we put it online, and then like we got like the video has like a fake phone number in it. Or no, sorry, it's a real phone number, but that's not a real business. Yeah. So it has a phone number, and we got like a burner phone that had that number. And it was really interesting when it went viral because we put it up on YouTube, and it was up for a couple of days or something, and then like one day it was like oh, it's got like 10,000 views. Like that happened really quickly. And then all of a sudden, like the phone rang. We're like, whoa, the phone rang. Somebody called the number. And then when it really went viral, it was kind of freaky because like the phone like didn't stop ringing. It was just ringing like nonstop because people from like across the world were like calling to try to contact Toby Jones. So we shot that. When it went viral, it was really cool. A couple years passed. We're like, well, let's do another one. And it's kind of like, well, you know, who makes a sequel to a viral video? Like it doesn't. Like that one was pretty viral at the time. It got like 1 million or something views on YouTube in the early days of YouTube, where 1 million was like a lot.
That's a big deal, yeah.
And we're like, well, who's gonna make a sequel to a viral video? It's like the worst idea ever. Like you're just gonna be sad and it's not gonna work as well. But we had this idea for Jones Barbecue and Foot Massage, and well, the Castro brothers had the idea, and then they got me to shoot it again, and they got Robert Hines to be Jones, obviously, and same deal. We all showed up to a Harold's Chicken in Chicago, a great chicken place in the South Side, and it was closed. We shot it from like, I don't know, like midnight to 8 in the morning while they're closed. So we were all like sleep deprived and just like, it was kind of a wild shoot, making all these jokes at like 4 in the morning at like a greasy chicken place.
Yeah.
But it was fun. We shot it. We did it. We put it up online, and then the same thing happened. Like it like totally blew up. And based off of that, Ramiro and Pedro, the Castro brothers, and Rob Hines, they wanted to work in the entertainment business. So they're like, let's go out to LA now. Like we've got this viral video we can kind of bank on. So they went out there, and they were just hustling. And those guys are like some of the best hustlers I've ever met. Like they will not give up. They're super dedicated, and they just really kind of work their butts off and try to get different jobs based on that sort of reel.
Yeah.
And they did try to get, they tried to pitch a Jones TV show. And they got me to shoot the pilot, or at least part of the pilot, part of like the sort of the hype up that they were going to use to sort of sell it. And that was like my coolest gig in LA, because that one was paid. That one was like a proper professional production. I was like super nervous too, because I'm like, the last time we did this, like it was like a small time like video on the street, like we just did everything ourselves, and now we got like professionals, and I'm like the DP, like the director of photography, and I'm like, oh my god, like these people are like professionals. I have to like pretend like I know what I'm doing. But I mean, I did, but it was just, I'd never worked at that level before. But it was like in LA, we were getting paid like a lot of money. Like I was like, oh my god, this is cool. Yeah. So that was like the biggest gig I got in LA, and it was fun. And we shot it, and they actually sold the Jones pilot to, I won't mention the network because it's not on, but they sold it to like a cable network, and they were going to produce it. But then that cable network, they like fired their head of programming, and they got a new person in. And then they're like, all right, we're not doing any more fictional programming. We're doing like only nonfiction. Yeah. So they cut our show.
Do you think that you would have like stuck with it if like the network?
I don't know. I was wondering, like, I mean, like I ultimately I like teaching. I want to be a teacher. I wanted to be a professor. I was getting my PhD while this was going on. So I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do because it'd be cool to work on a TV show. But also like by that time I felt like kind of distanced from it, and it was going in a direction that I wasn't as interested in, I guess. And I was just like, I don't know, maybe, but it ended up not having to happen. Yeah. What did happen though, this was funny, also based on that. So the rapper T.I., right? I'm not sure if you're familiar with T.I. He apparently loves Toby Jones, loves Jones Barbecue and Foot Massage. He reposted something. He reposted the video or like retweeted it or something like not that many years ago. It was 3 years ago, right when I started at Bellarmine. Yeah. And the Castro brothers called me, and they're like, "Hey, T.I. wants to shoot a music video with Toby Jones. Like, do you want to shoot it?" Yeah. And I was like you're asking me if I want to shoot a T.I. video? I'm like, I think I do. That's amazing. But it was scheduled to shoot on my first day teaching at Bellarmine. Oh, so I'm like, man, I can't do it. I can't. Yeah. Like, I can't. This is my first day at my university. I care about my students. I'm not going to. So I showed up to class, and I was like, "Hey, what's up, everybody?" It was an 8 a.m. class. Yeah. I'm like, man, I could have been shooting a T.I. video. They're like, you idiot, just leave, go do it. I'm like, no, I care about my students. I'm not going to go. It ended up not like so many things in LA. It was like they scheduled it, but he had like double booked it with some other thing. And he's like, oh, we'll do it some other time, but then it was too late. So they never ended up doing it anyway. So I'm glad I didn't like take time off work. I would have been pissed.
Yeah, that would have been an awesome opportunity though. Right. If it did work out. But I would use the fact that you made that video. I would use that as a fun fact for the rest of my life. Probably I would every icebreaker I would be I was the one who made that video.
Well, it's like I didn't like I mean, even now it's like, because like students are obviously like younger, and it's like, but that video seems to go around like a lot. We shot it in like 2008 or something. Like super old.
I've heard about it was through Vine. I don't even think it was through YouTube.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It got viral on Vine at some point, and then I saw it again on TikTok. So I think it kind of just circles.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a really interesting sort of media object, because it just gets recycled around the different social media sites, and people see it for the first time, and then like. It was just, I don't even bring it up because I didn't think people would still know it, because again, a viral video from 2008, it's a long time ago, but like somehow people still know it, and like it's weird to see the life of that thing, how it kind of like, and like Steph Curry was dancing to it before all of his games, like that was the weirdest one. Yeah, like Rob tells this story, Rob, the guy that plays Toby Jones, he was like, I was going to bed one night, and I was like half asleep, and I was kind of passing out, and then like I was watching ESPN, and I was about to fall asleep, and then I heard myself on TV.
Yeah.
And he's like, and he's like, am I dream? What's going on? And he looks, and he's like, Steph Curry he had this routine where he would dance to the Jones barbecue and foot massage video before like every game, especially it was like during the playoffs.
Jones barbecue foot massage. Jones barbecue foot massage.
And he's like, what is happening? This is so ridiculous. So like, that was kind of like one of the weirder moments where like it went around again like a lot. So it just seems like every couple of years it just sort of like for some reason goes around. People seem to like it. I'm glad.
I feel like it's probably because it's like a song.
Right.
It can circle as much, because usually if it's just like a video, it's like, oh, I got the joke once and I like saw it and I'm not going to quote it ever again. But since it's like such a catchy song, people will remember it. But
and that is like, it's so funny that he literally just thought it up on the spot. There was no, because like again, we're shooting a video like that. We have a script and we have a shot list, but when we get out there, Rob is such a charismatic performer. He's like, why don't we try this? Like, oh yeah, that'd be really funny. Like, let me set up over here. And then they sort of give him some suggestions and things like that. So that one, I don't even know how it came up. We're like, dude, we gotta have a jingle. He's like, all right, I got it. And he's like, off the top of his head, like made it up. And that's why it's so like simple, but so catchy. And like, it was just kind of funny.
Impressive.
Yeah.
I wish I could think of things like that. Like, I'm not that creative.
It was fun.
So since you had that like huge viral video, you were working in LA and everything, how did you end up back here at Bellarmine?
Okay, so throughout my whole history of teaching and making videos, I've always done the two of them together. And I study media. I have a PhD in film and media study. So I have an interest in like the academic side, the theory, the history, but I also like making stuff. And that's honestly kind of a rarity at least within academia, because I mean, just like in general, like the universities are usually designed so that like, you want to study film, okay, you go over here. If you want to make movies, okay, you go over here. And you get an MFA, you get a PhD, you don't talk to each other.
Yeah.
And usually you kind of have to pick one. And I was really kind of like, no, like I want to do both. I think it's really beneficial to be able to, study film and then making it, and like you make it, and that helps you understand the study of it, and like you learn the history, and that helps you understand how the camera works and things like that. So it's really mutually beneficial. So that's been kind of like my thing. I do like theory and practice. And I was in LA and I was looking for jobs, and the one from Bellarmine came up, and I was like, like the job description was like exactly me. I was like, this is me. Like, this is exactly what you want. They're looking for someone who did history and theory, but also does practice. And there aren't many jobs like that. And I was like, that is exactly what I want. That's totally what I want. So I applied, and it really was like I talked to the search committee, and like I came down here and visited, and I was like, man, this is a perfect fit. And I'm glad that the university agreed. So they offered me a job, and I'm like, yeah, I'll totally take this, because it was like the job was great. And I'm from Chicago. Louisville's pretty close to Chicago, so I have lots of friends and family there, so I can still go back and visit. And it was just like the perfect fit.
Yeah, I feel like that's one thing that's so great about Bellarmine, is that I feel like all of my professors, at least since I'm a comm major in the comm department, they all have so much like real world experience, like working in the career that I want to probably go into. So that's awesome that you ended up back here. I feel like that's probably really beneficial to students to have a professor that has that much experience. And I don't know, I feel like that's great that you ended up back here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad. I'm really glad to be here. This is a perfect like learning environment for how I want to teach, and I've really enjoyed it.
That's awesome.
And yeah, if every now and then I get students who wanted to go to LA or want to go into the film business, and I usually, I try to be as real as possible in talking about how it is, because it's a very like romanticized business. It's like, I'm gonna go to LA and be a star or something. It's like, all right, you can go to LA. It's brutal, but I'm not saying don't do it. Like, let's talk through it. And I sometimes use like the sort of Castro brothers as the example, where they go out there and they like want to pitch a show, but they just like took jobs where they can get. Like at some point they were doing like random editing jobs, and then eventually they got a job. One of them got a job like as a producer on Dance Moms or something, and he's like, whatever, let's go, like I'll do it. I'm gonna produce Dance Moms, and like he was sort of doing all this stuff and just rising the ranks, and like they never went to film school. They were just like Chicago dudes from the South Side that were like, let's go, let's do it. I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna try to make it, and they just hustled. There was no sense of privilege. There was no sense of like we're gonna go out there and like a job's gonna find us. It's like no, they just busted their hump and like worked really, really hard and didn't mind hearing no like 1,000 times. And like they're both working professionals in LA right now. And Rob Hines is doing stand-up. He was touring not too long ago. So all those guys like did it. So
I feel like your students probably appreciate though that you're real with them and that you're not like just go out. You'll, like your dreams will come true immediately. I feel like at least I would really appreciate like an honest opinion from somebody that's been there and lived there. So
I hope so. I mean, I feel bad sometimes when you have a student who's like really pumped and it's like, I want to do this. It's like, okay. I was like, all right, like you want to direct feature films. It's like, I'm not going to say you can't do it, but there are like, the number of people that direct a Hollywood blockbuster feature film, it's like way fewer than like players in the NBA. And like we know how hard that is. So it's like, what do you think you're going to be able to do to get this? What's your pathway forward? So it's about, it's not about like shattering anyone's dreams, but I think it's about grounding people because there are so many people who move out to LA that don't have a plan or don't have that work ethic. And they're just like, something's going to find me. And like sometimes it does, but it's like winning the lottery. You can't plan for it.
Yeah, well, it's awesome that you bring such like a wide set of skills and so much experience into Bellarmine. That's great. And I feel like a lot of schools probably wouldn't offer that, but since we're such a small school, you can like really meet and connect with students. So that's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. I liked learning about your background. That's really cool. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning in for another week of Hanging with Hannah at BU. Catch you next time.